Welcome to the forge today. We're going to make a second railroad spike knife, and we're going to make a spear. That should be fun. First thing we need to do is throw a railroad spike in the forge. We'll let that start heating up a little bit. So I made this kitchen knife a while back. It never really worked out very well. It's a nice hardenable steel on the front. And this back part is just rebar bent around and then forged welded back into the blade. Yeah, I tried, but it didn't come out very well. So we're going to repurpose this and make a spear. We're also going to throw it in the forge. Try to work on two things at once. All right, this old knife that we had, this kitchen knife, we're going to go ahead and cut off the handle part so we can shape up this bottom of the spear fine. And we're pretty much going to use the exact shape up here as the spear, and then we'll have to adjust the bottom a little bit. In the meantime, we're going to keep working on the railroad spike. Perfect. We're going to turn off the forge for a minute. So we kind of have our railroad spike into the shape of a knife, and we kind of have our other knife in the shape of a spear blade. So we're going to work on the handle of the railroad spike knife, and we're going to work on grinding the spear into more of a speary looking shape. But first we have to let that steel cool down. It's been inside that forge for a while, and we don't really want to quench it, so we'll just let it cool naturally. All right, we have our railroad spike knife in the vise. What we're going to end up doing is this cubed twist. So pretty much on two sides, we're going to cut little grooves in the knife, and then we're just going to twist it and hope for the best. Yeah, it'll go about like you expect. Now typically we would take the angle grinder and grind down the middle, but we're not going to do that this time. We're just going to go ahead and cut. We're just going to go ahead and cut slots about every ½ inch and hope for the best. All right, we have slots cut on this side. Now we need to rotate the knife and cut some slots on the back side. Trying not to touch the metal when I'm pointing at it. It's still pretty hot. All right, we're clamped in the other way. Now I really can't see my marks on the other side, so we're just going to try to get the first one where it belongs. All right, like I said before, the right thing would do would be cut a slot right down the edge on these sides. Last time I did that, it didn't work out too well. So we're just gonna leave it the way it is. Now also, this blade section is still way too thick, so we're gonna have to put it on the anvil again. But I think the next thing we're gonna do is try to twist it and get the twist in first, and then we'll refine the blade a little bit more. Now we're still waiting for this piece of steel here to cool down. We're gonna go ahead and quench it in water now. I think it's cool enough, it's not gonna hurt it. Maybe. And before we start the forge back up, we're gonna grind this to shape, and we're gonna touch up the profile of the knife just a little bit. So let's get to grinding. Okay. All right, we have our spear point a little bit cleaned up. We still haven't quenched this thing. So what we're gonna do is make a shaft that covers this part down here. And I put little notches on the side because we're gonna wrap this thing with cord to keep it all secure. And I don't want it to fall out of the notch. So that should be good. Let's go ahead and make sure that our railroad spike knife is cool. Get it on the grinder for a little bit. Now the reason we want to grind this before we go back and flatten it anymore is because we're getting a little bit of a ridge here in the middle. And if we go ahead and flatten that flat, you're going to get a cold shut where that comes together. So we just want to grind these edges off and get rid of that seam up the middle. Hope that makes sense. All right, our spear tip's all cleaned up. Our railroad spike handle, we got rid of that material hanging over the edge so we can get that back in the forge. We're first going to heat up the handle here and start twisting it before we thin out the blade. Might be a mistake. We don't know. As we twist this thing, we're not in a hurry. I'm only going to go about a quarter turn per heat. I just don't want to put too much stress on the handle in there. So that's our twisted handle. Obviously it needs a little bit of cleanup. And now we're going to forge the blade a little bit flatter. Also, I'm pretty happy with the shape of our spear tip. So we're going to go ahead and put this in the forge, get it up to temperature, and quench the blade. Should be good. Let that come up to temperature, and whichever one gets hot first, we'll start working on that. That should be good enough to quench. We'll say that's good enough. It looks pretty straight. It's almost thin enough. We kind of messed up our profiles again since we spread the metal out. But I think we're going to go and heat it up, quench it, and get it under the grinder. See if we can get this thing finished up real quick. Let's get that railroad knife on the grinder here. Alright, I think we're almost done for the day. Let me show you how we're doing. So we have our spear point here in the middle. It's pretty sharp, but I didn't want to over sharpen it because it's designed for spearing into stuff and not cutting. We have our new knife right here, the railroad spike with the twisted handle. The twisted handle came out pretty good. I kind of wish I would have made it a little bit longer. My finger is like getting right up there into the blade. So we might grind this into a ricasso a little bit just to save your finger. This one I already had done and its handle is about right. But you can see how the ricasso is ground in here. So we're going to do that to the other knife. We have to build a handle for our spear. That should be good. All right, to make a handle, I have some of this stuff here. Looks like some maple. Ooh, there's a nice piece of mountain laurel back there. We can just throw that on the table saw and we're almost done. I think the right thing to do is to bring out our shave horse and our draw knife. We can just run that mountain laurel right through the table saw, make it kind of square, and then pull it over here and finish it up. So here's the table saw. I already did the cutting. Man, it was dusty. So this is my homemade draw knife, or a homemade shave knife. Shave horse? I don't know what you call it. And all we're going to do is seems pretty good. All right, we got it mostly round with the draw knife and the horse. We're just going to hit it with this little sander just to take the splinters out of it. Wow, I'm a dusty mess. All right, after shaving it down on the shave horse with the draw knife and sanding it just a little bit, we have a slightly flattened stick. It's not perfectly round and it's not supposed to be. And it gets a little bit thicker as it gets to this end. Now the idea is going to be to cut a slot in the end of this stick so that this blade sits inside. Yeah, that should be fun. All right, after a lot of sanding, we have the blade fitting in there fairly nicely. We need to go ahead and shape this top, put a nice radius on it, I guess, would probably look the best. We're getting there. All right, we have the spear tip fitting into the shaft pretty nicely. Now we got to figure out how to attach it. Yeah, we should probably just put some epoxy in there and wrap it with some cord or string. That would probably be the best. Try to wrap this down the thing, keeping it as tight as we can. And I'm not clamping it or anything. We're just going to let it kind of live where it wants to live. Now, if I was thinking, we would have hit this with a torch first to kind of patina the wood. I don't know if patina is the right word, but just to scorch the wood to make it look old. And we still might do that. We just got to be super careful that we don't mess it up. All right, so now we're long enough. We're going to cut this string off. All right, so we have our wire tied to this nut down behind all the string, and it comes out down here somewhere. We're going to stick the end of this string through that wire and pull it back up inside. That's just going to lock it in there so it doesn't come unraveled. All right, so I was able to stick the string through the thing. We're going to pull on this without cutting ourselves on the blade. Oh my goodness. All right, so we got the string out here on the top. And we can just pull that tight, I think. Just like, well, what's that end for? We don't know. All right, we'll just say that that's good enough. And now we're going to singe these ends just to kind of neaten them up. All right, we're going to finish this like we do everything else with boiled linseed oil. Pretty much all you do is put it on a paper towel and rub it into the grain of the wood. And it gives it a nice dark, oh, I don't know, like an oily finish. So let me get it all oiled up because it's super hard to do this with one hand. And then we'll look at it, see what it looks like. That sounds like a plan. So here's the two finished railroad spike knives. They came out pretty good. And this is the spear that we just finished up with the forged tip and the hand rounded handle. It looks like it's pretty sharp. All right, so that's going to do it for the day. You guys get outside, do something fun. Come back and tell me about it.